Good evening, Sun Devils. My name is Alberto Santiago, and I am discussing my Module 5 Comprehensive English Language Instruction. I am doing the artifact option number 1 with a hypothetical student, taking a previous direct lesson plan and modifying it to fit one of the students that were provided an example. Unfortunately, I don't have a classroom or a classroom environment, so I will go through the motions and try to do my best to give you that classroom experience and how it would go down in my classroom. So for the original lesson plan that I have, it is for an intermediate level. The code for that class, as far as for the lessons, was EL .9-12 for 9th and 11th graders. It's standard 1, and it was intermediate 1, intermediate 2, and intermediate 3 as far as the proficiency for that lesson plan. And those read, just to kind of fill you in case you didn't memorize those, is to analyze central ideas or themes and justify how they are supported by using text evidence. Number 2 is to summarize the text, including specific details and information. And 3 is to cite specific details and evidence from text to support the analysis. Now, with these in my intermediate class, I did have such a big differentiation that obviously some of these are tougher than others, so that allowed some of my other students maybe that lack a little bit of focus. This was for my first period, so sometimes they were late, and then there's flat out just guys that didn't do the assignments and that kind of just slap it all together. So the original lesson plan was kind of designed to have that kind of differentiation in mind. Now, when we discussed the student I chose, her name was Era. Era is a 16-year-old student who is a junior in high school. She moved from Nepal. She speaks Nepali, Hindi, English, and has ambitions of speaking Spanish. A couple things I think I would recognize about this student. Her parents are both teachers. Her brother is an engineer student at Arizona State, and she has ambitions of being a nurse. She's fun, she likes to talk, but she does have times where she gets embarrassed about her accent, which is kind of a British English accent, and mentions that she just has a hard time understanding people when they speak fast. And I think we can all relate to that in a sense. So with my instructional strategy, the big thing is to give student agency, right? We want to differentiate. I want to have assessments that are quality assessments, and I want to maintain that growth mindset with everything we do. So one of the first activities I have on this lesson plan is journaling. My journaling is my bell ringer daily. I provide a writing prompt. That prompt can be a question. The prompt can be a quote. At times that I have ekphrastic options where it will just be a picture. Students can write poetry, stories, anything they like, a word to describe that picture. I have very limited demands on that. The only demand is that they write neatly. We want to see syntax and semantics happen. And I also just demand a 3-sentence minimum. That differentiation is there, as well as acknowledging the fact that if they have dual language, right, if they want to use their biliteracy, right, in Spanish, I welcome that. The bilingual communicative competency is welcomed, and we want to establish that and build off of that for our students. So with journaling, there's lots of options there, and lots of options for modification to fit students that maybe have a hard time writing, spelling, things like that. The beauty with the journal is that it's private, so I can build with that student individually in that private journal and assess them, right? And hopefully if I can provide assignments that are interesting enough, I can get quality assessments from that student. Another thing that I do allow students to do at times is to share their entry with a partner, or if they feel really confident and comfortable, they can read their entry out to the class. So that is just kind of an option they have. Really quick with what we're doing with these lesson plans, I do want to mention just some of the objectives that I have modified here for my students, making this a pre-emergent lesson plan. So when it comes to the ELP standard, I have an EL.9-12.S1.PE/E-1, and that's to identify the main topic and a few key details, right? So previously, we wanted to analyze central ideas, themes, justify how they're supported. With this change here, we're just going to actually ask for a main topic and a few key details. When it comes to writing, kind of with the journal entry, things like that, the lesson code that I have here, my standard, is EL.9-12.S3 PE/E-2, and that's to compose written narratives, appropriate conventions about familiar topics and experiences that include details, right? So if we're asking for a journal entry, that's basically allowing them to reflect in a personal manner and reach basically what I just laid out with that standard. For listening, the standard I have here is my EL.9-12.S2.PE/E-3, which is applying information from visual aids, reference materials, and developing knowledge of grade appropriate English morphology to determine meaning of unknown words. And then the last speaking ELP standard is EL9-12.S4.PE/E-3, which is identify language indicating a contrasting opinion or viewpoint. So again, when we talk about the journals, that's just kind of laying out some of the standards that we're trying to reach. With that, I do always offer an oral or speaking option with them. Like I said, students can share with their partners and discuss how they felt about something, or if they're really confident and comfortable, they can share with the class. Now, with that lesson plan, I also had vocabulary attached to it. The vocabulary was centered around reading fundamentals. This is pretty repetitive. I model the words. I recite the words, try to get some kind of choral activity there, get some support and participation with the students. They write these words down in their journal, so they're seeing it on the projector, they're hearing it, they're saying it, and they're also writing it down. And hopefully they're reading it later as a study guide. So that's something that they can do with their journal. Now, if we do have the students that just don't feel like writing, I say, hey, we'll draw a picture for that vocabulary term. If they don't want to draw a picture, they can Google me a picture. They can open up a Word document, make a chart. I stay pretty open to those ideas. Any idea that a student might have, as long as it's still reaching the objectives and the standard that I'm trying to accomplish, I welcome it. So again, it's modified to fit the differentiation. I definitely try to stay in a growth mindset. That way we support that student agency, but we still have them doing work, right, and growing as a student. And there's also high-level performers in class we have to consider. So high-level performers, I say, hey, write the word, draw a picture. Some of them will use different colors when they write the vocabulary terms, making charts or anything that they want to do inside their journal. Again, it's their journal. I just need to see if the vocabulary words are done to slide into my next activity, which is the note card. Now, with the note card that I offer my students, as long as they have their vocabulary words written down, as long as they've participated in worksheets or any activities with the vocabulary, I allow them a note card where they can create a quote-unquote cheat sheet, right? Some students will write down word for word, verbatim, each word and its definition. Some students will draw pictures and just kind of the words that they don't know, try to incorporate those limited words that they struggle with onto that note card, right? Because they already know everything else. Modifying it to fit a student like Era, who seems to have a lot of writing skills and seems to be pretty creative and dedicated as a student. This is perfect for her because it just allows her to express herself, cover what she needs to cover to get the vocabulary right. She was very successful in some of those vocabulary tests that she had taken. So I don't doubt a student like Era would be pretty productive in this environment and take good advantage of that cheat sheet. Again, it's a visual aid. Once a student has earned it, it's kind of just a little bit of insurance when I give them a vocabulary assessment. For this one, reading fundamentals, or for any of them in the future. Also, a side note, it is a technique, it's a resource, it's a material for studying. So I also tell my students they can use this same plan with the note card for other classes. You put the note card in your pocket if you're in line at lunch, if you're in line at the library, if you're just standing around, you can pull that card out, reference it, and kind of study, right? So that's what the benefit of having that note card there is. And then the last activity I have is four corners. Now with four corners, I present this on the whiteboard, and I will write in each corner what on each square what we want, right? So we start by folding the paper in half twice. Students, usually the first square I incorporate their name, right? We want to know who it is and what they're telling us about. And then I have some kind of questions to stimulate their interest and to get them going. So with this activity here on the note card, we had four different things. The first one was for them to write their name and the book that they had chosen to read. The second one was for them to write supporting details from that book, right? Different things that they had seen. Maybe it's a theme, the main idea, and then incorporate supporting details. Now, with the activity I have on this lesson plan, as for the main idea and 4 to 6 supporting details, my high-level performers will probably provide 6 to 8, and also incorporate some kind of art or visual aids inside of that sheet that I asked them to make for me. And it usually just comes on a nice letter sheet. They can make any visual aid that they want with this activity for four corners. I also use four corners to get feedback from students at times. I'll ask them, for instance, with this one, the number 3 corner was, did you like your book and why? And then I used the 4th corner to ask them what genre of books would they prefer to read next and why. So again, with the 4 corners, I want the student's name, the name of the book they read, and then the theme, main idea in the book, supporting details. Did you like your book and why? And then what genre of book you want to read in the future was the 4th square. To get an outstanding, to see that they understand and definitely performed well on this. We want to see about 4 to 6 ideas and supporting details there. So when it comes to Era, again, she loves writing. She excels in writing. It was one of her better things. Reading was kind of two different beasts there. When she read out loud, wasn't very consistent and struggled, but when she read by herself and followed with her words, she was more effective and more successful there. So I think there's something there with just comfort with these activities. It's a productive language that we're doing there when we write in our journals and we put our ideas on paper. I like the receptive language that we use with journals. Sometimes I'll actually have the students read their journal to a partner and then have that partner tell what the other person said in their journal to kind of present what they heard. So now they're getting in listening, interactive listening and interactive speaking. So that's kind of something that I would modify if I need to for high level, or if I'm having a really good day and the energy is strong in the class and kids are feeling super productive, take advantage of that energy, right? So when it comes to Ed, again, we saw some problems, some inconsistency with reading, but it sounds like she has a strong foundation at home and a strong family structure. And I do believe within time and some of these practices, she'll be right where she needs to be, as long as she understands and learns from the dynamic relationships and things like that. So right now, it's what I have there as far as modifying my lessons. In the classroom environment, I try to keep it personal and private, so I don't publicly say, hey, I'm modifying the lesson for somebody. It'll be more of a casual conversation and say, hey, well, why don't you try this? Well, why don't you give me that? For example, with one of the students I had, he didn't read the book. He didn't show up half the time, and when he showed up, this activity was on the table, and I just had him write down from another book that he read. Tell me if you remember the theme there, some of the supporting ideas. It was The Outsiders, which wasn't a book on my list. So what I did was I just Googled some of the information, read it, made sure I understood some of the things so I can kind of conversate with that student and or converse with that student. And we just made it happen with what we had. So thanks, Sun Devils. That's what I have for you as far as modifying my lessons. We're almost there. Have a great evening. Bye.